What do a music mogul and a Hollywood action star have in common behind closed doors? For years, whispers of a strange connection between Diddy and Tom Cruise have echoed through elite circles. But now, a shocking exposé unveils the hidden alliance that ties them together, an alliance that could reshape everything we thought we knew about fame, influence, and power. Stay with us as we uncover the truth. The leak appeared with no warning. A PDF file, buried within a thread on an obscure aviation enthusiast forum, was posted under the title, "What's Tom Cruise Doing with Puff Daddy in St. Kitts?" At first, it looked like nothing more than a list of standard aviation logs, tail numbers, dates, airport codes. But within 24 hours, the file had gone viral across Reddit, Twitter, and private Discord servers. The document, verified by amateur aviation trackers and one ex-employee of a private charter company, showed a Gulfstream G550 departing from Burbank Airport under a registered alias belonging to a shell corporation linked to Tom Cruise's legal team. That in itself wasn't abnormal. High-profile celebrities frequently flew under aliases for security. What drew attention was the manifest from a week later, showing the exact same aircraft leaving Teterboro Airport with a different alias, one long speculated to belong to Sean Diddy Combs. It didn't stop there. Between late 2022 and early 2024, the manifest showed at least 7 separate flights where Cruise and Diddy were on board the same aircraft or used the same aircraft within a 36-hour period. The destinations were as puzzling as the pattern: Nevis, St. Bart's, Reno Tahoe, and most notably, Tonopah Airport in Nevada, a location known for its proximity to restricted government land and testing sites. Private investigators and retired FAA consultants, now active on TikTok and YouTube, began raising red flags. One expert, a former air traffic controller named James Sturgis, noted, "There's no practical reason for these two individuals to be flying to these places together. No joint projects. No public association. So why all the secrecy?" Adding fuel to the fire was the complete absence of media coverage during any of these flights. Not a single paparazzi photo. Not a single TMZ headline. This, despite both Cruise and Diddy being two of the most photographed men in America. It was as if they'd vanished, multiple times, under the nose of an industry obsessed with exposure. Speculation surged. The conspiracy subreddit Our Elite Echoes ran a deep-dive timeline connecting these mysterious flights with Diddy's underground Vision House parties, invite-only gatherings known for strict NDA enforcement, no phones allowed, and appearances from high-ranking music execs, tech entrepreneurs, and even foreign diplomats. Meanwhile, another thread cross-referenced these dates with Cruise's known appearances at the Church of Scientology's Gold Base near Hemet, California. A theory emerged: was Cruise introducing Diddy to elements of Scientology? Or was it the other way around? Was Diddy pulling Cruise into a different kind of elite circle? Journalist Lila Moreno, an entertainment writer-turned-investigator, joined the dots in a viral Medium post titled "Jet Set Ghosts: Why Diddy and Cruise Are Playing a Dangerous Game." In it, she wrote, "This isn't just about private jets and aliases. It's about two cultural giants moving like ghosts, leaving only faint contrails behind. If these flights are real, and all evidence suggests they are, then what's being discussed at these remote destinations is not just recreational. It's strategic, possibly even political." Just as quickly as the post gained traction, it was hit with a takedown notice from an LA-based law firm known for high-profile celebrity cases. But by then, the fire had spread. Screenshots circulated. Video breakdowns exploded on YouTube. TikTok sleuths reenacted the flight routes using animated maps and dramatic music. Public curiosity turned to public obsession. By the end of the week, searches for Diddy Cruise Jet Manifest overtook celebrity Met Gala looks in trending Google results. A Twitter user claiming to be an ex-NASA pilot tweeted, "Tonopah. Cruise. Diddy. This isn't just coincidence, it's choreography." Theories flourished. Some believe the pair were part of a secret task force forming an entertainment politics hybrid syndicate. Others suggested it was an elaborate smokescreen to distract from another high-profile scandal brewing in Hollywood. But the most persistent theory came from conspiracy circles already deeply immersed in Scientology lore. It suggested that Cruise was using the church's resources to aid Diddy in cleaning up potential liabilities from his inner circle. In exchange, Diddy was offering Cruise a gateway into cultural influence beyond the white-dominated halls of Hollywood, a backdoor into the future of digital entertainment, music streaming, and political messaging campaigns. One Twitter user summed it up chillingly: "If Cruise is the mind, Diddy is the voice. Together, they don't need a platform. They are the platform." By the time mainstream media outlets began cautiously dipping into the story, it was already too late. The narrative had slipped into the hands of the people, decentralized, fragmented, and impossible to kill. The only thing everyone could agree on was this. These two men, once operating in separate spheres of influence, were no longer strangers. And as one Reddit comment put it succinctly under a photo of the flight manifest, they are not just flying. They are planning. The footage wasn't meant to see the light of day. Grainy, shaky, and shot from behind a palm tree, the video surfaced on a private Telegram channel known for leaking clips from high-profile events. It showed a sprawling compound in the Dubai desert, flooded in gold ambient lighting and security tighter than a UN summit. At the heart of it was a futuristic dome-like structure, glowing faintly beneath the starless sky. This was no ordinary gala. Within hours, the internet had given it a name: the Unseen Gala. The source, anonymous, unverified, and paranoid, claimed to be a drone technician hired to monitor aerial surveillance at the event. The footage he shared showed snippets of what appeared to be a secretive gathering hosted by Nadim Al-Sayed, a reclusive billionaire tech magnate known for his investment in neural interface technologies and AI-based human behavior prediction systems. What made the footage explosive wasn't just the setting or the secrecy. It was the guest list. In one clip, a black Rolls-Royce Phantom pulls up to the entrance. Tom Cruise steps out, wearing a tailored navy blue suit and an expression that reads equal parts charm and calculation. He exchanges a quiet nod with a man many identified as one of Al-Sayed's senior engineers before disappearing inside. 2 hours later, another clip shows Diddy arriving in a charcoal SUV with tinted windows. Unlike Cruise, he doesn't linger at the entrance. He's immediately ushered through a side entrance by two men in gray suits, one of whom was later identified by online sleuths as a former CIA liaison turned corporate security consultant. The internet pounced on the footage. Why were these two icons, who've never collaborated publicly, attending the same ultra-exclusive gala on opposite sides of the world from their usual circles? And why were they entering separately, but reportedly leaving together? Screenshots from the footage revealed something even more chilling. Diddy and Cruise exiting through a restricted rear corridor, flanked by what appeared to be biometric scanners and armed personnel. It wasn't a simple social exit. It looked like a back-channel escape route. More unsettling were the identities of other attendees. Zoomed-in stills and facial recognition overlays pointed to several individuals with shadowy backgrounds: a retired MI6 cyber warfare expert, a top AI ethicist from MIT, 2 producers from major streaming platforms, and at least 3 ex-intelligence officers affiliated with international propaganda monitoring units. This wasn't a party. This was a summit. Whispers of a massive collaboration began to surface. Not just any collaboration, but one that merged entertainment, artificial intelligence, and psychological influence tech. Dubbed online as Project Parallax, the alleged venture was described as a multi-platform media tech initiative designed to manipulate emotional trends in real time across digital platforms. The concept wasn't new. For years, marketers had toyed with the idea of using AI to create content that could respond to human emotions, films that changed based on your facial expressions, music that shifted tempo based on your heart rate. But if Cruise and Diddy were involved, the implications were terrifying. These weren't just two celebrities, they were institutions. Tom Cruise, the ever-committed performer with ties to one of the most secretive organizations in the world. Diddy, the media mastermind who built an empire on influence, charisma, and calculated disruption. Online speculation turned frantic. A Twitter thread from user @ZeroWaveMedia went viral. Cruise is the face of legacy control. Diddy is the face of cultural chaos. Combine the two and you don't get balance, you get engineered manipulation. This isn't about music or movies. It's about mindshare. One of the more convincing theories came from a Reddit user who claimed to be a former streaming executive. In a now-deleted post, they wrote, "There's a reason every major content platform wants exclusive emotional telemetry. They've realized it's not enough to watch users. You need to feel for them, or through them." Cruise and Diddy's teams have been shopping something to studios called Confluence. It's not a show. It's a responsive narrative engine. Meanwhile, critics warned of the ethical black hole this alluded to. If Project Parallax, or Confluence, or whatever this initiative was, could tap into real-time viewer emotion and craft content that deepens psychological dependence, then entertainment wouldn't just be a distraction. It would become control. But the most disturbing clue came not from the footage, but from a single quote, overheard and transcribed by the same anonymous source. During a lull in the gala, The technician claimed to have caught a fragment of Cruz's voice during a closed-door conversation with Al-Sayed and Diddy. The quote, "We don't need to convince the world. We just need to entertain them long enough to forget they asked questions." No footage backed the claim. No audio. But the quote spread like wildfire, plastered across memes, deep dive podcasts, and even protest art outside film premieres. Tom Cruise's team issued no statement. Diddy's PR remained silent. Al-Sayed's foundation declined all comment, saying only that no such event ever occurred. But the images were out there. The faces, the timestamp, the glow of something hidden beneath the desert. And just like that, the unseen gala became a digital legend. Not a rumor. Not a hoax. A warning. The sun set over the Amalfi Coast in a cascade of gold, bleeding into crimson as it dropped behind the horizon. A super yacht, sleek, modern, and untethered by any identifying name, floated silently offshore. It was a gathering for the elite, rumored to be hosted by a European heiress with ties to both Silicon Valley and Hollywood. But the guests were not typical influencers or socialites. This was a circle few knew even existed: investors, private diplomats, deep state media architects, and two very familiar faces. Tom Cruise and Diddy stood alone on the top deck balcony, backs turned to the open sea. Their silhouettes glowed faintly in the dying light, captured in a 12-second silent clip posted anonymously to X, formerly Twitter, with the caption, "Watch their hands, not their mouths." At first, it looked like any ordinary conversation between two powerful men. Casual body language. Brief laughter. Cruise clasped his hands behind his back, while Diddy occasionally adjusted his watch and leaned on the railing. But the internet was ready. Within minutes, lip readers and behavioral analysts had flooded in. One TikTok video broke down the exchange frame by frame, using AI-enhanced zoom and facial mapping to determine the possible content of the conversation. The results? Disturbing. Several independent experts confirmed the presence of the phrase, "controlling the message," mouthed by Cruise, followed by Diddy saying, "clearing the past." The implications were immediate. In media, controlling the message is standard PR talk. But in the context of these two, after the unseen gala and the flight logs, it suggested something far more strategic, an active manipulation of public perception, possibly tied to previously buried events. And then came the line that sent forums, think pieces, and group chats into overdrive. Cruise, staring out at the ocean, reportedly said, "It has to stay buried." What had to stay buried? And why was it said on an open deck, with no press, no staff, and no phones, except, somehow, this one clip? The original video was taken down within hours. A Digital Millennium Copyright Act strike was issued by a boutique legal firm in Geneva known for protecting ultra-high net worth individuals. But by then, it had been reposted over 3,000 times and dissected by countless content creators, each putting forward their own interpretation. Some said the conversation was about a mutual cover-up, a shared event from years ago that, if revealed, could destroy their reputations. Others speculated the pair were speaking in metaphor, referencing dark industry practices like information suppression, career manipulation, and psychological warfare through entertainment. The hashtag #StayBuried began trending, with users demanding answers. One Redditor on the Media Leaks board made a detailed post linking the clip to a 2006 incident involving an unnamed private event in the Bahamas. Attendees reportedly included Cruise, Diddy, and several now-deceased executives from both the film and music industries. No official records existed of the event, but financial logs showed millions in security and privacy expenditures charged to their respective holding companies. The Reddit post suggested this was the beginning of the alliance. But another theory took hold, darker still. A video uploaded by @Coldframe Files, a popular conspiracy YouTube channel, claimed the conversation wasn't just casual, it was coded. Using slow-motion analysis, the channel demonstrated a subtle pattern in Diddy's finger tapping on the railing, 3 short taps, 2 long, 1 short. Morse code. If accurate, the code translated to EF. Theorists scrambled to decode what EF could mean. Entity Firewall, a theoretical media protocol designed to block unauthorized narratives. Eclipse Foundation, referencing leaked documents, yet unconfirmed, tied to the supposed Project Eclipse initiative. Eliminate footage, implying a directive to destroy compromising material. No one could confirm the actual meaning. But the community wasn't short on guesses. At the same time, vocal coaches chimed in on Cruise's tone and posture. Several pointed out his clenched jaw and narrowed eye movements during the phrase "stay buried," indicators, they said, of stress under suppression. One body language expert claimed Cruz was showing signs of internal conflict bordering on regret, while Diddy appeared cool, relaxed, and utterly in control. The idea that Diddy was orchestrating the emotional tone of the exchange, calming Cruz while delivering operational directions, took hold. Was Cruz in too deep? Was Diddy the puppet master in a much larger game? That theory was fueled by a sudden, unexpected update. A former yacht crew member, speaking under anonymity via a voice-disguised interview, claimed that guests were asked to sign double-layer NDAs, one for the event host, and a separate one directly connected to an offshore entertainment consortium. According to him, Cruz and Diddy held a closed-door meeting after the balcony talk in a soundproof chamber at the base of the yacht. What was discussed remains unknown. But the crew member left viewers with one final cryptic statement. They weren't there to party. They were there to synchronize. Whatever was said between Diddy and Tom Cruise that evening, one thing was clear. It wasn't just a casual chat. The video, however short, cracked open a deeper mystery. Viewers didn't need full audio to hear the unspoken weight in their words or the coordinated stillness in their mannerisms. The message was clear. Something had already happened. And whatever it was, it had to stay buried. It started with a routine offshore audit. A financial journalist working for an international transparency collective, who went by the pseudonym Corvus, stumbled upon a curious shell company while investigating Cayman Islands registered corporations used by major celebrities. The company had a sterile name, Vanguard Velocity Holdings, Limited, but the deeper Corvus dug, the stranger it became. At first glance, it looked like a dormant entertainment fund. Minimal public activity, no listed employees, and vague quarterly statements that simply read media optimization research. But the shareholders told a different story. Two key names stood out: a legal trust associated with Sean Combs and a private investment entity with long-standing ties to Thomas Cruise Mapotha IV. Corvus released a partial report online, drawing limited attention at first. But once investigative Twitter accounts cross-referenced Vanguard Velocity's incorporation documents with leaked tax files from the Bahamas and Panama, the picture became clearer. This was not a dormant fund. It was the beating heart of what insiders began calling the entertainment syndicate. Additional records revealed nearly $300 million in seed capital flowing through the entity across a span of 18 months. Most of the money was routed into projects with names like Emotech, Neural Sync, and Project Eclipse. None were registered as traditional TV, film, or music ventures. Instead, they were classified under a vague label, Psycho-Emotive Engagement Technologies. The tech world had seen glimpses of this before, content that adjusted in real time to user feedback, AI-generated avatars that morphed based on your psychological profile, but nothing on this scale. Corvus and his team described it as a media laboratory for behavioral programming, less entertainment, more emotional architecture. By the time YouTube channels and podcasts started catching on, whistleblowers were already stepping forward. One such whistleblower, a mid-level project manager who claimed to have worked on EMOTEC's UX design, provided encrypted emails and internal presentations. These revealed that Cruise and Diddy were not only aware of the syndicate, they were active architects. Cruise, long rumored to be fascinated by the intersection of spirituality and technology, had reportedly championed the idea of curated catharsis, narrative experiences that replicated spiritual breakthroughs through data-responsive storytelling. Diddy, meanwhile, allegedly pushed for the text deployment in music streaming platforms, using rhythm, frequency, and lyrical pattern recognition to affect emotional regulation in listeners. A leaked PowerPoint deck titled Phase 3, Influence Through Immersion, outlined the syndicate's future rollout plan. The slides were chilling. Emotional Resonance Index, ERI, a score assigned to users based on how strongly they responded to content stimuli. Mood Scripting Framework, scripts adapted in real time by AI to maximize emotional compliance. Directive Immersion, a proposed pilot test where participants wouldn't know they were being manipulated emotionally until after post-trial debriefing. Even more alarming was the final bullet point in the deck. Goal: Emotional Environment Control by Q2FY26. This wasn't entertainment. It was behavioral engineering dressed as culture. The name Project Eclipse surfaced again and again in emails between shadowy executives. One message, written by someone using the alias MN, stated, "The public doesn't need another channel. They need a mirror that shows them who we want them to be." Speculation grew that Eclipse was the code name for a content delivery system embedded directly into social media feeds, designed to subtly steer opinion, consumption, and behavior. Not through obvious propaganda, but via subtle emotional nudging. Cruise and Diddy's unique roles made sense. Cruise, with his influence over Hollywood's biggest action franchises and his ties to spiritual disciplines, could shape the face of the narrative. Diddy, as the maestro of influence and branding in modern hip-hop culture, could guide the pulse. Their alleged goal? To eliminate the unpredictability of audience reaction altogether. The revelation sent shockwaves through entertainment and tech circles. A few mainstream outlets touched on it cautiously, using euphemisms like experimental content ecosystems and emotionally agile narratives. But no one dared link it directly to Cruise or Diddy. Lawsuits, it was rumored, had already been prepared in advance. The syndicate's reach stretched beyond just Cruise and Diddy. Documents listed partnerships, some confirmed, some inferred, with companies known for producing algorithmically generated soundscapes, augmented reality experiences, and even political campaign video frameworks. A former MIT researcher who consulted briefly on neural sync wrote an op-ed in The Atlantic, claiming the technology could theoretically create emotionally dependent viewers, unable to disengage from content because it reflected their needs before they even realized them. In an encrypted message sent to the same journalist who exposed the Cayman accounts, an anonymous source wrote, "Eclipse isn't just a name. It's a metaphor. They are not giving us new light. They are blocking the sun." Amidst the growing panic, one thread connected it all: the silence. Cruise, Diddy, their camps, their legal teams, all quiet. And in that silence, public suspicion fermented. Were we watching actors or architects? Was every film, album, or streaming campaign just another layer of Eclipse? As Entertainment Syndicate trended and researchers demanded accountability, a new fear began to grow, not just about what the syndicate was doing, but how long it had already been doing it. Because if this was Phase 3, what happened during Phase 1 and 2? The whistleblower called herself Seraphine. That wasn't her real name, of course. She appeared in a dimly lit video wearing a soft balaclava and speaking through a voice modulator, uploaded via a secure drop to a decentralized video platform known for hosting banned content. Her first words? Chilling. "I was trained to guide culture, not reflect it." Seraphine claimed to be a former Scientologist, but not just any defector. She identified herself as a communications operative, recruited as part of an internal Scientology directive called Omega Vector. According to her, Omega Vector was a secret program designed to embed carefully conditioned individuals into the entertainment industry to shape public thought subtly and strategically. She wasn't alone. Seraphine alleged that at least a dozen agents were placed into influential media spaces: editors, songwriters, digital marketers. Their role, not to create, but to infect. The public might have dismissed her story, if not for the evidence she provided. She uploaded over 40 encrypted voice memos, a series of chat transcripts, and 2 partial surveillance logs from a 2017 Europe tour, Diddy's tour. These logs weren't fan captures or venue data. They were internal travel records, personnel files, and audio recordings that hinted at active information shaping during tour stops in Berlin, Amsterdam, and London. At the center of these documents was a name, Agent K-17. A cultural liaison allegedly inserted into Diddy's touring entourage under the cover of a creative consultant. According to Seraphine, this operative wasn't just reporting, he was orchestrating. He rewrote set lists to provoke emotional dissonance, encouraged lyrical changes with subliminal intent, and briefed social media teams on how to inject subtle polarization into fan communities. The idea was to test emotional manipulation in a live environment, all while wrapped in the guise of artistic spontaneity. The European leg of the tour, Seraphine claimed, was a pilot program. One cruise was monitoring remotely via encrypted comms. Online forums erupted. Reddit's RO Digital Ops Insider launched an investigation, trying to match the identity of Agent K-17 with any crew member during Diddy's 2017 tour. One fan account posted backstage footage from a London venue showing an unfamiliar man directing Diddy's team while wearing a badge labeled Cultural Interface Strategist. No such job title had ever been officially recognized in tour management structures. Meanwhile, Seraphine's second leak went deeper. She uploaded a training manual, partially redacted, dated 2015, and marked with the watermark of an obscure Los Angeles-based media consultancy. The manual, titled Narrative Loops and Emotional Entrapment, outlined psychological tactics for crafting content that looped unresolved emotional states, preventing full satisfaction in order to foster repeat engagement. Page 47 stood out. The goal is not resolution. It is resonance without closure. Make the user feel, but never let them understand why. If real, the document confirmed fears that Cruz and Diddy weren't just manipulating content, they were training people to do it for them.
Pressure mounted as the leaks spread.
A popular YouTuber, at Infrared Files, posted a 3-hour deep dive into Seraphine's testimony, comparing her data with previous Cruz and Diddy behavioral patterns dating back to 2011. The video drew over 2.5 million views in 48 hours. It also sparked a terrifying question. How many other Seraphines were still out there, but loyal? Then came the clincher. Seraphine's final release was a series of covert call recordings, blurred audio but unmistakable voices. One was clearly Diddy. The other sounded eerily like Tom Cruise. In the clip, Cruz is heard saying, "I want them feeling, but not thinking. If we control the emotion, we control the outcome." Diddy replies, laughing, "You worry about their minds. I'll keep their hearts in my pocket." Legal teams for both denied the authenticity. Experts were brought in to analyze voice prints. The conclusion was inconclusive. Some said it was faked, others swore it was real. But by then, the damage was done. Seraphine vanished. No trace. No IP. No follow-up. Her final post was a message scrawled on a notepad in a blurred-out photo. "They'll say I lied. But if I'm wrong, why are they still silent?" The media industry's response was fractured. Some labeled her a hoaxer, while others privately admitted her leaks felt terrifyingly plausible. A former talent agent told The Guardian off the record, "There have always been whisper networks. We joke about cultural handlers in green rooms. Maybe we shouldn't have been joking." The phrase rogue operative became synonymous with Seraphine.
But to millions, she wasn't a rogue at all. She was the only one telling the truth.
As theories piled up, one thread gained traction.
Seraphine wasn't rogue. She was released. Intentionally. To test the reaction. To watch what we'd do with the truth.
If true, that meant Cruz and Diddy were already 3 steps ahead. And the rest of the world?
Still dancing to a beat they didn't write.
The rumor had always been there, whispers of a secret film project between Tom Cruise and Sean Diddy Combs. Industry insiders dismissed it as a fever dream, an unlikely fusion of 2 titans from different worlds. But buried deep in the Hollywood ether was a name, Ascension Protocol. For years, it was nothing more than a footnote on speculative development charts. No trailers, no press, not even a trade announcement. But now, in the wake of Seraphine's revelations and mounting suspicion around the entertainment syndicate, Ascension Protocol suddenly re-emerged, not as a creative vision, but as a legal ghost. The tip came from a former assistant at a boutique entertainment law firm in Beverly Hills. In a now-archived post on a whistleblower site, the assistant detailed how an entire digital contract folder associated with the Cruz Combs project had been marked closed, risk classification level 5 and scrubbed from all internal databases. According to her, the contract wasn't cancelled due to creative disagreements.
It was buried.
The assistant's leak included 3 heavily redacted pages from the original production agreement. Though names were blacked out, there were unmistakable markers, references to Mission Star, Cruz's internal code name on studio documents, and Mr. C, long rumored to be how Diddy is referenced in executive memos to avoid leaks. The leaked outline described a multi-format immersive experience involving real-time audience participation, emotional feedback loops, and embedded psychological suggestion themes.
In short, Ascension Protocol was not a movie. It was an experiment disguised as art.
The project was reportedly backed by a mysterious LLC, the same Vanguard Velocity Holdings previously linked to both men. Initial funding totaled over $45 million, with projections to scale if beta testing succeeded. Legal analysts reviewing the contract speculated it was designed to bypass traditional regulatory oversight, using a nonlinear content distribution model to avoid classification boards entirely. Then, just weeks before the project's proposed announcement at Cannes 2021, it vanished. Emails between production partners dried up. Key creative consultants received severance packages with ironclad NDAs. A leading behavioral psychologist hired to shape the emotive arc architecture mysteriously withdrew from the public eye, deleting her LinkedIn and ResearchGate accounts. Investigators from the independent watchdog group ScriptScan eventually tracked down a former producer tied to the shelved project. Speaking under strict anonymity on a podcast, he said,
"It wasn't cancelled. It was neutralized.
The project became too real.
The scope went beyond storytelling.
They started talking about live data harvesting during scenes. That's when people got scared." The producer described closed-door meetings where Cruz allegedly demanded complete control over narrative structure, insisting that resolution equals weakness. Diddy, meanwhile, was focused on incorporating biometric data feedback, using real-time physiological inputs like pulse, temperature, and pupil dilation to alter music and ambient sounds mid-scene. It was like they weren't making a film, the producer said. They were building a ritual. Something immersive, but invasive. The most startling claim came in a follow-up interview with a paralegal from the same law firm that processed the final termination agreement. According to her, the contract didn't just vanish, it was erased retroactively. Using rare legal clauses reserved for national security-level assets and executive media provisions, the syndicate filed what's called a disappearing contract action, typically used in military R&D to protect the existence of covert technologies. In simpler terms, they made it so the contract legally never existed. And yet, traces remained. One invoice from a now-defunct post-production house in Vancouver listed itemized charges for subconscious scripting calibration, ocular modulation test renders, and live environment plot fractals. When queried, the studio denied any knowledge of the terms or client, claiming the invoice was part of a broader fictional billing template.
But a former VFX artist from the company told a different story.
They showed us footage, not scenes. States. Visual environments that shifted when the viewer shifted. A white hallway that grew darker if your heart rate spiked. Dialogue that whispered instead of shouted based on your mood. It was beautiful and terrifying. Despite legal threats and takedown notices, the leaks kept spreading. Fans and theorists pieced together what little remained of Ascension Protocol. Some claimed it was never meant for public release, that the true audience was a closed test group of influential figures, including politicians, executives, and cultural gatekeepers. One unconfirmed rumor, originating from a German tech forum, stated that early screenings led to unstable psychological feedback among viewers, episodes of intense dissociation, recurring dreams, and a heightened sense of being watched. Whether real or fabricated, the story caught fire. Theorists latched onto the idea that Ascension Protocol was a proof of concept for Project Eclipse, the realization of the entertainment syndicate's deepest ambition, to make content that didn't just entertain, but indoctrinated through immersion. But perhaps the most damning detail came from a final memo leaked by a junior agent in the Guild of Screenwriters. The memo, marked Eyes Only, read, "This is not a creative dispute.
This is a strategic burial.
Project AP shall be considered terminated under Clause Delta 7.
All residuals waived.
All credits struck.
Participants will not speak.
Should any party surface content, legal remedy will be pursued at international level. We cannot afford exposure, not yet."
The final line?
There are no stories here, only signals. It was as if Cruz and Diddy had created a media weapon and then decided the world wasn't ready. Or worse, that the world was already exposed to it, in pieces, and we didn't even realize.
No posters.
No teasers.
No press tour.
Just silence. And the uncomfortable sense that Ascension Protocol was more than just a vanishing act.
It was a message. A warning. Or a test.
It began quietly. Too quietly. An article appeared on The Signal, an independent investigative media site known for its deep dives into the entertainment industry's murkier dealings. The headline read, "What do Diddy, Tom Cruise, and Project Eclipse have in common?" Within hours, it had over 250,000 views. Within 12, it was gone.
Visitors who clicked the link were met with a blank white screen.
The URL redirected to a generic 404 error page, and when archived versions were pulled from services like the Wayback Machine, users were stunned to find metadata entries wiped clean. Not missing, scrubbed.
The article had simply vanished. But it was too late.
Screenshots of the piece, detailing timelines, shell companies, and whistleblower accounts, had already circulated across Reddit, Discord, and Telegram channels. The story alleged that Cruz and Diddy were central figures in a covert initiative designed to manipulate media through emotional response engineering. It cited Ascension Protocol as a testbed, Vanguard Velocity Holdings as the financial vehicle, and Seraphine's leaks as confirmation.
The most damning claim?
That the two men had contracted third-party firms to clean up traces of their operation across the internet. The public might have written this off as a wild conspiracy, until more pieces started falling away. First, a well-known podcast episode discussing Project Eclipse disappeared from Spotify, Apple, and YouTube simultaneously. The creators posted a frantic update on X, formerly Twitter, stating, Episode 197 has been removed by request from a law firm we've never heard of. We're being told to stop pursuing this story immediately. We're consulting legal counsel. Next, a long-form YouTube documentary titled The Emotional Engine: How Cruz and Diddy Built a Media Weapon was removed via DMCA strike. The creator, at Deep Dive Duke, posted screenshots of the takedown notice. It originated not from a rights holder, but a third-party IP enforcement firm in Luxembourg.
He followed up with a short video that quickly went viral.
They didn't even say what footage I infringed. Just, remove all content referencing Project Eclipse, emotional telemetry systems, or Ascension Protocol. They are not hiding the story. They are deleting the concept of the story.
By the end of the week, an eerie pattern had emerged.
Multiple Medium articles referencing the entertainment syndicate went offline. Blog posts were de-indexed from Google without explanation. SEO tags like Eclipse Protocol, Vanguard Velocity, and Emotive Control Media returned 0 results, despite having previously existed.
It was a coordinated erasure campaign.
A leaked memo from a Silicon Valley content moderation firm confirmed suspicions. Marked confidential, internal use only, the document listed a new algorithmic trigger named EchoNull, reportedly used to identify and suppress emotionally destabilizing speculative narratives involving media personalities. Cruz and Diddy weren't the only ones with power. They had help. One of the few outlets brave enough to continue coverage was TruthSifter, a crowd-funded publication run by ex-journalists. In a scathing editorial, founder Lonnie Barrett wrote, "We've covered government surveillance, we've covered corporate collusion. But this is the first time we've seen celebrities deploy that same machinery to maintain a reality bubble.
This isn't just a PR scrub.
This is narrative warfare." Meanwhile, an internal whistleblower from a major streaming platform leaked Slack conversations suggesting the platform's content discovery algorithm had been deliberately altered to bury any media, even fictional, that used certain keywords.
It's like Eclipse became Voldemort.
"You're not allowed to say the name," one employee typed. But the most shocking revelation came in the form of a cease-and-desist letter leaked by a former entertainment attorney. The document was issued to a small production studio that had begun developing a limited drama series loosely inspired by leaked details of Ascension Protocol. The letter didn't just demand the cancellation of the project. It accused the creators of theft of conceptual property and emotional interference with cultural equilibrium. "This isn't IP," one Twitter user wrote. "This is ideological DRM." As the cover-up intensified, so did the paranoia. Was any media safe? Were emotional reactions being logged and flagged? Viewers started reporting bizarre streaming behavior, episodes changing tone on rewatch, ads targeting them based on the themes they were most unsettled by, shows they couldn't find again no matter how hard they searched. "Where is Eclipse" started trending. And then came the counterstrike. A shadowy hacker collective calling themselves Cenotaph posted a manifesto-style video, declaring themselves defenders of narrative sovereignty. Masked, digitized, and speaking in a slow robotic cadence, the speaker said, "We do not accept emotional captivity." They rewrote our feelings with algorithms and called it entertainment. So now, we rewrite the story. The video ended with a flickering screen and a single message. "The C files drop soon." The internet exploded. Was this the long-awaited leak? A dump of real documentation proving everything, from Ascension Protocol to emotional telemetry trials to Cruz and Diddy's alleged syndicate? Suddenly, the cover-up backfired. By trying to erase the narrative, Cruz and Diddy had unintentionally made it more real than ever. The Streisand effect on steroids. A forbidden story that now existed not just in data, but in emotion, memory, myth. Because even when you delete the files, you can't delete the feeling. And millions of people around the world now felt something was deeply, irrevocably wrong. It happened during what should have been a routine press junket. Tom Cruise sat across from a reporter from Variety, ready to promote his latest film, an international spy thriller designed to reboot yet another billion-dollar franchise. The energy was scripted, the questions rehearsed. Then came the curveball. "Tom, before we wrap, there's been a lot of chatter online about a connection between you and Sean Combs and something called Project Eclipse. Can you comment?" The smile on Cruise's face froze, lips twitching into neutrality as the atmosphere shifted. For 2 full seconds, he said nothing. Then, with the composure of someone suppressing a hurricane behind their teeth, he let out a soft chuckle. "No idea what you're talking about," he said, eyes fixed, too fixed, on the reporter. But that silence, that split-second static, was enough. Clips of the moment went viral. Analysts broke it down frame by frame. Body language experts described it as disassociation in real time.
Conspiracy channels lit up. Everyone knew the look. It wasn't denial. It was fear wrapped in professionalism.
Just 1 hour later, Diddy tweeted for the first time in 3 weeks.
Truth floats.
Always has.
The post had no context. No follow-up. Just those 4 words. That's when the dam broke.
Later that night, Cenotaph delivered. Their long-promised leak, the C files, hit the dark web and exploded across encrypted social platforms.
The file drop was massive.
Nearly 1.2 terabytes of documents, recordings, memos, email threads, and even footage, allegedly scraped from personal servers and anonymized cloud backups. The files were sorted into folders with ominous labels. AP_live builds. Mood loop _test subjects. VX sound tests Diddy. Cruise private sessions 2019. Eclipse UI prototype. Within hours, journalists, data analysts, and digital rights activists began dissecting the trove. One file contained test footage from Ascension Protocol, showing a simulated conversation that responded to viewer vocal tone. Another folder included raw biometric data correlated with music exposure from Diddy's unreleased tracks, some users' heart rate spiking or falling with specific lyrical patterns.
But the most damning revelation?
A leaked Slack thread between 2 Vanguard Velocity employees confirming active testing on live streaming platforms without user consent. A highlighted line read: "They don't know the music is rewriting their mood. That's the whole point." Outrage exploded. Influencers across X and YouTube posted emotional reaction videos, some in tears, others in rage. Redditors compiled detailed timelines aligning media releases from the past 2 years with known behavioral nudges identified in the C files. Lawmakers began calling for hearings. A U.S. senator tweeted, "If even 10% of these files are authentic, we're looking at the emotional equivalent of MKUltra via Netflix and Spotify." The European Commission released a statement within 48 hours, confirming an inquiry into potential violations of GDPR and biometric manipulation laws. The UK's Digital Ethics Office requested an emergency review of platform behaviour dating back to 2020.
Cruise's team went dark. No press. No appearances. No statements. Diddy's Instagram was wiped clean. Every post deleted. Just a blank grid and a new profile bio.
Ascend. Or be absorbed.
Theories intensified.
Some believed the entire Project Eclipse saga was a psyop within a psyop, that the leaks were themselves manipulated emotional triggers to test how the public would respond to the idea of manipulation. Others said Ascension Protocol was still in effect, just under a different name. But for many, it wasn't about theories anymore. It was about how they felt. A college student posted a viral video describing how her taste in music and TV had shifted in the last 2 years in ways she couldn't explain. "I thought I was just changing," she said, "but now I think I was being changed." Another creator, a film critic with over 1 million subscribers, posted a breakdown of his old reviews and found his most positive reactions correlated directly with films flagged in the C files for emotive entrainment trials.
Online culture fractured. Some called for boycotts of Cruise's and Diddy's work.
Others clung to denial, insisting it was all an elaborate work of fiction. A few believed it didn't matter anymore, because we were already inside the system. The influence wasn't coming.
It had arrived long ago. Protests began in LA, London, Berlin.
Not against war or government, but against narrative control.
Placards read,
"We feel, but is it ours? Art or algorithm?" Eclipse ended choice.
And then came the final twist.
An anonymous post surfaced on 4chan, from someone claiming to be a former project handler on Ascension Protocol. The message was simple. The last test wasn't the movie.
It was the silence. And you failed. People didn't know what it meant. Some said it referred to the years we consumed media blindly. Others believed it implied that speaking out now was too late.
In a final act of symbolic rebellion, an underground artist collective projected a glowing eclipse symbol across the side of Paramount Studios in Los Angeles with the words, "We watched them.
Now they watch us. Feel wisely."
No arrests were made.
No lawsuits were filed.
Because no one, not Cruise, not Diddy, not even the platforms, wanted to go to court.
Because court would require admission.
And in the wake of the Eclipse revelation, silence was safer than truth.
But the world had changed.
Because now, every song felt suspicious. Every movie scene seemed manipulated. Every emotional reaction begged the question, Is this mine, or was it given to me?
The screen still glows. The music still plays.
The content never stops.
But now, we listen differently. We feel differently.
And we remember the moment everything cracked open.
Just one question lingers.